Hello and welcome to a quick little let's play of a game called Master Spy, a self-described stealth precision platformer, which I think makes the game missold a little bit, but I've had lots of fun with it, even in my short time with the game, so I wanted to do a little let's play to show you a bit of what the game was about, talk you through some of its mechanics. Obviously we'll be going through some levels that I've already played. Unfortunately you can't have multiple save games, it looks like, on the run at once, and then hopefully we'll get to some newer bits if I can survive that long bit. I'm sure I'll have enough trouble solving levels I've already been through, as you're probably about to see. So I'm going to dive into the game in a minute. What you're going to see is a nice kind of opening, not really a cinematic, but it's going to introduce our mission, and then we're going to jump straight into the game as a kind of cold open. I'm actually going to be playing the game with a controller, which is unusual for me, but as you'll probably see in a minute once we get going, it's definitely going to make sense for the game. So we are infiltrating Gale Electro Tower, so it's a pretty cold open. We don't really know what's going on, except we are this guy here, we are Master Spy. And I was actually a bit confused at first because there's actually no tutorial, nothing to really tell you what to do. But through experimentation you can kind of work out, or to be honest, if you've seen a trailer for the game you can work out what you need to do, but there's a kind of a door thing here that we can't get through. There's a guy patrolling, and if we drop down at the wrong time and he sees us, we get caught and we have to retry the level. So you can't get caught. Now as you can see, guards are pretty tone deaf, and they can only see in straight lines, so he's not going to be able to see me no matter what else I'm doing. I'm just going to nip down and get that key card. And now the door's gone green and I can exit the door. So you can see, very simple. And these first tutorial levels are kind of just introducing you to all of these basic mechanics that the game is all about. So we sneak past some guards here. So now it gets a bit interesting because it doesn't actually look like we can get past this guard anyway, because the only way to get through is to go right up in his face. So at this point we use the only other starting ability that the spy has, which is when you press X on your gamepad, he cloaks himself, kind of, and then sort of waddles. He waddles a bit slower than he would normally walk. You can see I do this kind of bit shimmy a bit faster, and I can still jump, so I can walk right up to this guy, see what he's doing with his life, and I can walk past these guys as well, but it means that you walk on average slower than the guards will. That was a bit close there. And as we'll see later on, there's various things that complicate this as it slowly layers up more mechanics. But before we go plot on too much further, hopefully by now you've seen that the game is really gorgeous looking. Like, it's set in this sort of permanent 80s aesthetic, like it's kind of a... It reminds me of games I used to play when I was very little, but that might be me misremembering the era, right? But it feels like maybe an Amiga game, or something with really, really lovely art and a very distinct visual style. And there's just a slight bit of fisheye to make it look like you're watching it on a CRT monitor or something. I'm a sucker for this kind of thing. It may not impress you as much. So this level's added a couple of extra elements. So there's a camera here. Cameras work pretty much like guards, but they often have better vantage points than we are screwed. I have done these levels before, I should just stress, so it's actually even more embarrassing than it looks. Okay, so we're going to drop down like this. So you'll see that once again it introduces a new gameplay mechanic without really instructing you what it does, and I think it gets away with this primarily because a lot of their functions are kind of obvious. Everyone knows what a security camera is and what it does. And you can see in the bottom right hand corner of this level, for instance, there's a dog, and you kind of know what a dog is going to do. It's going to run at you when it sees it. It's a guard dog. But if you've maybe thinking about the game design a bit, you might think that there's something special about this dog compared to the guards, and you'd be right. So he's going to see me if I do this, but he'll even see me if I'm cloaked. So, oh dear. That wasn't supposed to go like that, but kind of worked. So dogs can smell you even if you're cloaked, so they're kind of like a special case of the guard, really. Just gonna sneak past those guys there. And it's kind of ramping up with each additional level, so more complications here. This time there are two dogs, so you've got to time your jumps, you've got to coincide. They don't really introduce timing a lot until the second world, at least I felt, but we'll see there are definitely some trickier bits here. And now we're combining lots of things. So there's a guard here, there's also a camera watching, so I need to stay in cloak. And this keycard is kind of in an awkward position for me to get to, so I need to be uncloaked in order to obtain it in time. Bugger. So we're already kind of mixing expertise here. Man, I am super bad at this today. I didn't practice per se before doing this, but I thought that since I'd already solved these problems, it wouldn't be so bad. Okay, so we're going to wait for the camera to give us just enough time to get down, cloak. So one of the things that made me particularly enjoy this game was that I'd been watching AGDQ, which is Awesome Games Done Quick, which is... Oh, we did it! Which is a week-long series of speedruns, which are streamed online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for charity. And it's really inspiring to watch people play and understand games in very strange and ways that don't really make sense to me as someone who pretty much blunders through games, as you may have realised by watching this video. And Master Spy feels like a speedrun game. It feels like a game where you get better and better and better at executing these small ideas. Now this one's a little bit tricky. The other thing you might notice here is that these guards don't have really traditional vision cones. They pretty much just see in straight lines, which... like, it might kind of make it feel a bit unrealistic, but I think it's got a... it's got a function because it changes the way the game plays from being... And this is actually maybe my only criticism of the game, is that it changes... When you watch the trailer for this game, it looks like it's a game about being a spy and sneaking through buildings. And obviously it kind of is on a thematic level, but really the game is about navigating this space, these hazards, and you could almost reduce it to kind of straight lines and laser beams and almost like an abstract puzzle game. You could remove all of this theming. You know, these guards are just lasers that point left and right, and I can't cross that line. But at the same time, I think the aesthetic is great, and I really love the way the game looks, and I love the way the game plays. And even though it wasn't the game I thought I was going to get, I'm still very happy with how it's played out so far. This is the first time that a room has several segments to it, so you can see I can walk across to this part, and I can see the lower half of this room, which is connected to the lower half of this room, so I can begin to plan out a route through these levels. Now, the first time I did this level, I actually went around the guards this way. And I'm just going to do it once because there was a theory I wanted to test out, because I actually gave up and I went back a different way. But okay, so after all of that we end up at this gorgeous vista at the top of this tower looking out across the city, and Master Spy appears from the shadows behind this gentleman here. And what we're going to do now is get a bit of exposition. I'm going to let you appreciate this cutscene because I really love the way they're done. Worse than a hypothetical world war? I love this bit where the worst bargaining taking place here you've ever seen. He only asked for 50. Why would you double his higher offer? And that's mission 1 basically done. And you'll see I got fairly terrible ratings for it. I don't know how I feel about these rating systems. Obviously they're kind of designed for replays. As you can see, I did amazing on a second go round. But It's a bit frustrating the first time you go through a world, given that you had to learn these mechanics for the first time, to then be graded on it. I feel like the grades should only really appear when you retry a mission. I don't know, but maybe that's just my inherent desire to not be judged. I'm going to call the video there, but if I decide to do another one, we'll have a look at World 2, where things get much more complicated. They start adding in new mechanics that mix up the levels a lot, and we'll talk a bit more about why I think it's such a fun game. Thanks very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you next time.